Stas23 here. In today's knife therapy, we have the Quiet Carry Chase. Not this particular chase. This is the original one in Bowler N690 with the acrylic scales. This was a special run they did. And I like the knife a lot. However, this blade hole didn't really do it for me. It was a decent thumb flicker, but wasn't the most fluid whenever I was doing the slow roll. And that's something that I enjoy. But it was an excellent size, good blade shape, nice and thin carry, good EDC blade. They also did one in 20 CV and they did one in LC200N, but both of them had that blade hole. So whenever they announced this particular version, I knew I wanted to check it out. This is the thumb studded version in LC200N, which is a nitrogen-based steel that is pretty rust impervious. It's very hard to rust the steel. It has a nice stone wash finish here. I'll try to put the specs up on top of the screen right now. Got a nice attractive, like a rough stone wash with a satin finish underneath there. You got a good point for piercing. Thin blade stock coupled with a decently high flat grind that comes down to a decently thin edge to about 20 thousandths behind the edge. Should make this thing a great slicer. You also have a nice sharpening tool right here that does clear that plunger grind, because I did sharpen this up after I tested it and it did not start to widen up yet, so that's a good thing. So why don't we do a little cutting with this and see how well this blade performs. Factory edge came stupid sharp with a good bit of bite to the edge as well. Just as I thought, it was super slicey, passing through the cardboard like a hot knife through butter. And the drop point blade should excel in pretty much all my testing, even though I do prefer my tip to be a little lower because this one has a pretty aggressive belly going up to that tip. Not a problem. I didn't have a problem cutting the cardboard where it was feeling like it was going to slide out or anything. So not too much to complain there. You still have a good portion of straight edge to that total edge. And once we moved to the Pine 2x4, I was really wanting to check to see if there was any hot spots, especially with that clip. It did a really good job due to that excellent blade geometry, and for the most part it was really comfortable. I felt locked in. However, the thin thickness in those scales did start to cramp up my forearms a little bit because I was squeezing and gripping that handle tighter than I would normally do if it was a thicker handle. I did notice a minor hot spot toward the end from the top of that pocket clip, but it wasn't outrageous. The knife truly shined during this portion of the testing. It was really comfortable in that pinch grip, and the belly, along with the good geometry, made cutting on the flat surface a breeze. The edge still felt really good, still had a good bit of bite to it, and that's always something nice to see. Once we went to this rubber tubing, for some reason that stone wash felt sticky going through it. I don't know if it was because it has like a rougher stone wash. It got through it just fine, but I don't know, you could definitely feel the sidewalls catching against that rubber. But once I got to, say, this thick corner cardboard, it breezed through it like it wasn't even there. And it was very impressive because these factory edges don't usually keep their bite all that well. When I got to this denim, this is some very thick denim. It has a lot of seams in it. I'm cutting through pockets. Not something I would have usually grabbed to use for this knife, but this is what I had close to me, so I grabbed it because I had forgotten to make the little denim roll. But I think it did just fine. I don't think it struggled. I was out of my normal 1/2 inch twisted sisal rope, so I used this 3/4 inch that I had on hand at the time. I think it did very well, mostly doing push cutting. I think the 17-degree edge bevel really helped out a lot, making it a lot more slicey. And I still was able to get through 50 cuts which I was more than happy with, and I could have probably done more. I ended up running out of the rope. Whenever I got to the end, I did check the edge. It still felt like it had a decent working edge, which was kind of surprising because LC200N is not, supposed to be a super edge holder, but I think it did a great job. They definitely have a good quality heat treat on the knife. And after I finished, I did strop up the knife. I did 10 passes with 1 micron gunny juice on balsa wood, and I was able to bring that edge back to hair shaving sharp. So I think that's more than acceptable, for an everyday carry knife, especially one that you don't have to worry about rusting. Well, I hope y'all enjoyed that cutting footage. I enjoyed making for y'all. I think the blade performed outstanding. It was fairly comfortable. Like I said, the only problem I had was when I put a lot of pressure, I could feel the backside of that clip a little bit. It wasn't terrible. And the thinner scales, after prolonged cutting, I did start to cramping up my forearms a little bit just because I was gripping it a little bit tighter. Now let's close it up and take a look at this action. It has a very, very smooth, snappy action. It's riding on phosphor bronze washers, and that's one thing that I noticed about the first one. Once those washers were broken in, this thing is super, super smooth. I can slow roll it. I can just barely touch that, it goes out, and if I want to, I can reverse flick it as well. The thumb studs are nice and comfortable. You can get to them from either side. You can easily disengage that lock left-handed as well. However, the pocket clip is tip up right-hand carry only. Why don't we check it out in the pocket? I had no issues with it going into the pocket. It has enough ramp for the type of plants I use. Goes in nicely and pretty much disappears. It does hug this side of the pocket, so you're not going to have anything poking into your hand. You can put your hand in there easily. Holds it fairly tight. It is sitting on top of this peel ply texture on the G10, and there's not a whole lot of space underneath that pocket clip. That is one of my knocks with the knife, is just the pocket clip in general, being high up like that and not having a whole bunch of space. That said, I had no problems with it in my jeans. It is a little bit snugger fit in jeans, but my thin, lightweight shorts, which this is when I carried this knife the most, I had no issues whatsoever. Alrighty, now let's take a look at the scales. You have a peel ply G10, which doesn't have a ton of texture, but I like the way it is. It gives you some grip, and it's not tearing up my fingers. It's like a slate gray, or I don't know, you could call it a blue G10. I think it looks nice. I could probably add some oils to it if I want to darken it up some. You got their signature 4 holes that you see on all their knives. You got a nice little cutout right here to make it easy to get to that thumb stud. Very nicely done there. You have a flat pivot on this side that is countersunk and flush with the scales. And I like how they put T8 hardware throughout on this one because on the original, as you can see, they had T6 hardware, and it wasn't my favorite. Very nice seeing them use better quality hardware and much more crisp hardware. The scales have a nice chamfer going all the way around, making them nice and comfortable. No sharp edges where you don't want them. Your scales are flush with the stainless steel liners. The liners are made of LC200N, just like the blades, so you're not going to have to worry about this knife rusting at all. The hardware on the knife and the pocket clip is made of marine grade stainless steel. that should hold up to the elements pretty well. The thumb stud is made of titanium, so you're not going to have to worry about anything on this blade rusting. If you ever saw any rust, it'd be in where they put the lasering for the steel, but I've tested a lot of LC200N and Zefinite, and I had no issues whatsoever. You have pretty much flow-through construction. You have a pretty small G10 backspacer, no lanyard hole, but I don't really care about lanyard holes, so that doesn't bother me any. The inside of the liners have been heavily skeletonized on the show side scale, and you even have some skeletonization on the locking liner as well. Now let's take a look at the weight. First in grams, 89.5 grams and 3.15 ounces. Super lightweight. Now let's check out that lockup. The knife is sitting at around 50%. Absolutely no play up or down, none side to side either. And like I said, you still have a nice smooth action, and you know that stainless steel on stainless steel, you shouldn't have any problems with that lock wearing too fast on you. Access to that lock bar is good because you have this cutout right here, so the locking liner sits a little proud of the show side scale, so it's easy to get to, not a problem at all. You do have some texture on there. I could have done without that. I don't usually find that does too much for it. I would have rather just a little chamfer right there, but it works well. Quick size comparisons. You have the quiet carry waypoint and the quiet carry drift pivot to pivot. It's much more similar to the size of the drift pivot to pivot with the Spyderco PM2 Power 3. Much more similar to the Power 3 size, but it is still shorter than the Power 3. Very similar in size to the Mini Hogue Ritter RSK and the Ontario Rat Model 2. All right, so nitpicks and complaints. The only thing I could really complain about is the pocket clip. You know, you don't have a whole lot of room there. It is sitting on the G10 texture. So that could become a pocket shredder over time. And, you know, doing the harder cutting task, I did feel that top of that pocket clip. Now, like I said, your day-to-day, you know, light-duty EDC task, what I think this knife is designed for anyway, it's going to handle them. It's going to handle them well. You're not going to have to worry about this knife rusting. That's why it was so enticing to me. That's why I love its other brethren right here, the drift and the waypoint. These are also excellent knives to carry, you know, if you have high humidity like I do here in Louisiana. So all these quiet carry knives I think are great. You know, sometimes I favor one over another. It just depends on the day. This is probably my favorite at this time, but that could change tomorrow. So overall value, I think at $168, I think it's an excellent deal. You get a chance to get into LC200N. There's not a whole lot of production knives. You have some Spydercos, you know, the Spidey Chef and some of the Salt series knives in LC200N. But other than that, if you're not a Spyderco fan, you don't have a whole lot of companies doing it. So it's always nice to see. Quiet Carry likes to play with different steels. These have Vanek Super Clean, which is an extremely awesome super corrosion resistant steel. So love seeing what Quiet Carry is doing. Can't wait to see what they have coming next. I know they teased a few things on their Instagram, and I can't wait to check those out. So if you have any questions, comments, concerns, please leave them down below. I hope everybody's having an absolute amazing day. I will see y'all on the next one. Double peace.